Hey everybody, what's going on? Happy Wednesday and welcome to the DFS Pick 6 for week 3. That's right, we're already in week 3 of the NFL season. I'm Crain. Joining me as they are every week, we got John Daigle, we got Rich Hribar. Daigle, how we doing, brother?
Everything is well. The behind the scenes paywall got into a little argument before we went live, and that's because I was discussing the lifestyles of Evan Silva and Daigle over at the Manor here. And I said that I didn't agree with refrigerating red wine. It doesn't make sense at all. But apparently, that's a controversial opinion. Apparently, more people refrigerate red wine than I thought, Eric.
Like the red wine I buy, it's what is it? I don't even remember what it's called, but it basically tastes like Kool-Aid.
Okay.
Like I like if you give me something that I feel like I could have drank as a 6-year-old, I'm going to be happy about it. And yeah, I refrigerate that. I might as well just put it in a pouch and put a straw in there, like an old Capri Sun or something. Like it's just,
to be clear, like I am no sommelier. Like I've been with people who also like put ice in the red wine as well. So I don't know. I just thought it was that no one did it, but apparently like half of the people I've talked to, which is like 4 tonight, they do it. So who knows?
Reeves, where do you fall here? You don't seem like a red wine kind of guy.
No, yeah, I actually am. Yeah, I don't mind it. Listen, I'm not a warm liquid drinker in general. Like I don't like tea. I don't drink coffee. Daigle knows.
Oh my! You want to talk about something else frustrating?
Yeah, I don't drink coffee. I don't like hot liquids, man. It's not my thing. But I also like it. Listen, if you're spending more than like $8 on wine, you're wasting money anyway.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. You know, it's kind of like paying up for these tight ends in DFS. You know, we don't want to do that. They're all the same they're all the same down here.
Yeah, in the chat they says Moscato. They say strippers refrigerate red wine, and when you marry one, that's how you find out. I mean, I don't know about it. Look at Reeves, just like, yeah, that's true. I know.
It's a true story.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you. But yeah, you know, how was your week 2, Daigle?
Well, we got Aaron Jones right, nailed that. Ran back Marvin Jones since he ran 100% of the team's routes in week 1, nailed that. But then you look at having Zeke over the Cowboys passing game, and whenever the Cowboys are inside the 5 3 times, and Dak is the one to fall in 3 times, it can get sort of frustrating. Not to mention Will Fuller maybe not being injured, but on the trainer's table the entire game. So
he's just going where he's comfortable, man.
That will tell you how week 2 went for me. But a few good hits here and there, so it was okay.
Yeah, the only hits that I had were to my bankroll, so I'm glad to be moving on to week 3. Reed, how was week 3 for you, or how was week 2 for you, and how you doing, buddy?
No, a lot worse than week 1. I mean, obviously, I was way over on Paris Campbell, so that was like an initial like.
That was quick. You have no sweats then.
No, we were pretty good. I had a couple of good calls, like I mean, Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders I was in on, but listen, when you're like way overweight on Paris Campbell.
I had Higbee and my 1 Millie Maker bullet. I had a Higbee and Aaron Jones, but it doesn't matter whenever you go Naheem Hines over Jonathan Taylor.
Oh,
it happens, buddy. It happens.
Man, that's like a Crain play right there that just never works out. Like, just don't get cute. What are you doing, man?
Don't get the guy that's going to get 1 touch compared to 28. I do agree with that.
I mean, you really have to be efficient if you're going to try and win. Speaking of efficient, let's talk about Dallas at Seattle. A couple of offenses that have been efficient this year. It's a 55.5-point total. Seattle 5-point favorites at home. As we talked about last week, Dak got it going. He just absolutely smashed it. Zeke also had a big game. Russell Wilson, they are letting him cook up in Seattle. You know, Reeves, we talk about games that we can stack. We talk about knowing where the ball is going. I mean, this game kind of has it all, man. Like, find me something not to like in this game, because I like the whole thing.
Yeah, it's hard to find pieces that you don't like in this game. This will be the popular game stack of the slate, and I think CeeDee Lamb, I haven't seen ownership, but I would guess CeeDee Lamb on both sites is going to be probably one of the heavier guys. When you look at Seattle, has already allowed games of 12, 179 and 15, 232 out of the slot to opposing slot receivers through 2 games, and given his price and it's coming off his first 100-yard game, I imagine he's going to be pretty popular. But it's not a hard week to pay up for either of these quarterbacks if you want to, with the way this slate falls out with, You've got the Saints and the Packers on Sunday night, and you've got the Ravens and the Chiefs on Monday night. Both those teams are off the slate. It's not hard to find value here, and you can fit in Russ or Dak, whatever your preference is. And it's kind of dealer's choice with either guy, with the way both these teams have played the pass so far. And, Dallas has Chidobe Awuzie now sidelined for multiple weeks on their side. DK is super cheap on both sites as well for the upside he has. He's a guy that has scored in 5 of his past 7 games going back to last year, and over his past 5 games averages 100 yards receiving. It's kind of just find what you want to play in here. Good thing is everyone outside of Lamb is kind of expensive. Gallup and Lamb are kind of the same price on both sites. So, you can have pivot. We could keep, maybe Michael Gallup's our Mike Williams of this year. Maybe we'll just keep going to the well.
I'm done with these guys, man. Like, he leads the buy low air yards. I don't care. Like, these guys never get there. Like, I'm just done. I'm done. Michael Gallup. Yeah, I see him right now projected 11% ownership. Daigle, I just say thanks for the rake, everybody.
What is Lamb?
A 10, but I don't believe it. That's
not true.
No, that's going to get higher.
I imagine Lamb will come in the highest rostered among all of them and be one of the highest rostered, if not the highest rostered receiver the entire slate. So we can run it back with the other side too. That's why this game is odd for DFS, because typically we want to fade or at least have one piece and get unique on the highest total of the week, but you don't need to here. Like, the Cowboys defense has already been atrocious. And like Reeves said, they lost their number 1 corner. Seattle's wide receivers have only caught 31 passes all year, but they've still scored the 3rd most fantasy points because it's Russell Wilson. They're just uber efficient. They're averaging 14.8 yards per catch. And now we have this Cowboys offense that's returning the favor and just running 4 seconds faster, literally 4 seconds faster in neutral game script than any other offense. So although the Seahawks are running at the league's slowest pace, like, the Seahawks are the one benefiting here because they're coming up. I guess if you want to get unique on it, Chris Carson is a way to get exposure to the Seahawks offense. He's still out-touched Carlos Hyde 32-14 on the year, and he's doubled up and routes run 40-20 and has 9 targets to Hyde's 2 with a team-high 3 red zone targets. So a part of Russ cooking is also just Russ throwing to running backs on early downs. So Chris Carson will stay involved, especially if we think this one is competitive throughout.
Yeah, he's 6'6" over on DK. On the other side, we've got Ezekiel Elliott, who's somebody that, of course, we're going to want to play. He's going to be popular at 8-3. Is there any reason not to play him, Reeves?
No, there's none. Not on this slate. He's, we take McCaffrey off the board now. Saquon's off the board. It's just really open and shut that he's clear-cut the best running back volume and touchdown, play available. Especially when you go back even to the last year. Plus, Zeke looks sharp this year, man. He looks a little different. He looks a little nimble to start the year. You remember last year he was coming off of that the Cabo trip.
Yeah, he was just hanging out in Mexico for like 3 months.
The late sign. He looks a lot better, and they're throwing to him more to start this year too. It's just hard to get away from the way this is all played out with the running back apocalypse last week at the top and the other big high-scoring teams kind of removed from the slate. I don't really see why you even really get cute with it. You just punch Zeke in, and we all have him.
Yeah, and one of the problems with this game is, we've talked about this so many times, Reeves, Daigle over the last few years, where a game like this, you just want exposure. The problem is, I'm not sure what the low-owned piece is going to be. Daigle, you mentioned Chris Carson. I think that's really interesting, and we've seen that pairing your running back with the quarterback, even though it's a little bit counterintuitive, can absolutely work. If you did that with Dallas last week, you were really doing well. But, is there a kind of a low-owned piece outside of Carson, Daigle, amongst the pass catchers that we can be interested in? Any of these tight ends, maybe?
Metcalf and Lockett have accounted for 30 of Wilson's 63 attempts. And then you add in Carson's 9. That's pretty much the offense right there. So I don't think I'll personally get cute with Greg Olsen or David Moore. There doesn't seem to be a need to do that, especially on this weird slate that allows us to do anything you want on FanDuel. The choice is yours in life because McCaffrey and Barkley are still priced so high up there and there aren't as many options this week. So I think maybe coming off Metcalf, who will be higher rostered than Lockett, could be an interesting contrarian pivot. And it's 1-for-1. I prefer Metcalf in a vacuum, but if you're telling me he's going to be that much higher rostered, I would lean Lockett. I know you have the ownership numbers over there. So that would be my way of getting contrarian. I don't think you need to get too cute here, minus rostering Michael Gallup in tournaments, even though I know you're down on him as well. So
I'm just done. I'm done. Him and Mike Williams can go. Well, I'm not going to say that on air, but yeah, I'm just done with these guys. Reeves, any other guys in this game that we need to talk about?
No, I don't think so. If anyone, maybe someone will get cute and point chase with Dalton Schultz, but Seattle looks like a different team against tight ends this year, but probably because they're just getting crushed by wide receivers. But it's funny the way this is played out for Seattle because they actually went the opposite direction. There was that big hot topic this summer of what matters more. I think PFF did like a huge study on what matters most, pass rush or pass coverage. And Seattle went the other route. They let all their pass rushers go and invested in the secondary players, and they haven't stopped anyone yet. So it's one of these things, man. It's frustrating. Now, both of those quarterbacks that they have faced did light them up in the second half of games in like chasing game script, but there's still nothing here that's scaring you about going towards Dak again.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into our next game, I want to let you guys know that if you want to try RotoGrinders Core4 Premium subscription at a discount, go to rotogrinders.com/media/pick6. That's the number 6. And check it out. And I'll tell you what, you're going to get your first month off. You're going to get your first month $5 off. So make sure you check that out. And again, rotogrinders.com/media/pick6. That helps us out. And of course, if you're watching and enjoying this over on YouTube, click the like button, click the subscribe button. And while you're doing that, we're going to, listen to soothing tones of John Daigle, talk about the Bengals and Eagles because it's 46-point total. The Eagles 5-point favorites at home. And Daigle, I got to ask you, buddy, what the hell is up with Carson Wentz? Because he's stunk. He
has been atrocious. I do agree. Even in the intermediate and shallow passes, he's just been bad, making bad decisions. You even watch the Eagles play. He's forcing throws, interception last week that was completely unnecessary to toss at all. Having said that, this is the same defense that Baker Mayfield and the Browns offense got right against. And so I still think there's a reason to go back to this Eagles defense. I guess we'll start with the passing game here because I'm very high on Deshaun Jackson this week. So Tyrod Taylor only completed 16 passes in week 1, and Baker Mayfield targeted his running backs at a higher rate. So Cincinnati hasn't really faced or permitted many catches to wide receivers this year, but Deshaun Jackson now comes in without Jalen Reagor, first of all. And then Jackson himself is third in the entire league in air yards, according to Crain's Bilo air yards model, and he's still second on his own team in target share. Yes, Wentz has been bad, particularly throwing deep. PFF has charted Jackson's targets downfield as the third lowest catchable rate, I believe, behind A.J. Green, who we'll talk about in a second, and Allen Robinson among the guys with 10-plus targets. So he has been bad, but everything is there, including with Jalen Reagor being out. The opportunity in particular is there for Deshaun Jackson. So I still don't mind going back to Wentz and Jackson in this spot.
That's just a depressing sentence because and I know we're team season long over here, but I've been trying to start Carson Wentz and Reeves has just been destroying me. I'm excited to go to Gardner Minshew this week. So that's how bad it's been. But Wentz to Deshaun Jackson, we talk about low owned stacks, we talk about cheap stacks. Wentz 5.8 over on DraftKings, Djax 5.2 over on DraftKings. Is that one of the ways you're thinking about going?
I mean, I don't have any problem with that at all. No pushback on there. Djax is the type of guy that when he's going to get target volume, you take swings on and you take those low points with him like you've got in the first 2 weeks, and you hope to run into one of these, variant games, and maybe you run into it here. There's a chance this game could go back and forth from a pace standpoint too. I have major questions about the Cincinnati side, but you've got Miles Sanders in a pretty locked in cash spot here. I think everyone will circle him on both sites. Came back last week, played 78% of snaps. He had 23 of the 30 backfield touches, ran 31 pass routes, just 8 for Boston Scott, lost a fumble and still didn't matter. Doug Peterson kept feeding him. We like that. The Bengals are going to be without Geno Atkins and Mike Daniels again. They haven't practiced yet at all this week. They allowed 234 yards to the Browns and 4 touchdowns, a touchdown and 151 yards to the Chargers backfield in week 1. It's going to be real hard to get away from Miles there because he can't be scripted out. it's just you swallow it. You're probably going to get 20 plus touches in a plus matchup, and he's still underpriced from where he's probably going to end up in the next couple weeks. But that's about it, unless you want to play either of the tight ends. Goddard is pretty cheap on FanDuel. He's like priced really near the streaming options on FanDuel. And if you look at the past 9 full games these guys have played together, removing the game that Ertz, didn't play in week 17, Goddard has 52 catches for 525 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Ertz has the exact same 52 catches for 493 yards and 4 touchdowns. 78 targets to Ertz, 70 for Goddard over that span. It's really kind of a 1A, 1B. I don't know if it hurts Ertz more than it helps Goddard, but they've been really 1A, 1B. So maybe you can go Goddard there as another cheap stacking option. But the Cincinnati side, I feel like people are going to overweight the 68 dropbacks that Joe Burrow had last week. This dude threw 26 passes in the fourth quarter last week. His yards per attempt so far, and I'm Joe Burrow honk, and I've pumped him up for fantasy this year and as a season long as a QB1 guy, but like his yards per attempt are 5.4 and 5.2 through 2 weeks. I mean, he has been awful, like from like a passing efficiency stance. And if you think you're going to get 68 dropbacks every week, like it's fine. You can throw for 5 yards per attempt if you're going to push 70 dropbacks. But do we think that that's going to happen every week? I mean, that seems like pretty far-fetched. On deep balls, Joe Burrow has completed 2 of 15 passes on throws 15 yards or further downfield. League rate is 46%. That offensive line is awful. They're going to have their hands full here against the Eagles. I know the Eagles didn't show up and play good defense last week, but I think that it's a mismatch, on the road for the Bengals against that front. The one good thing is you can say Cincinnati, they've thrown the ball 70% of their plays, 69% on first down outside the fourth quarter. It's the highest rate in the league. The bad with that is they've averaged 3.5 yards per play on those attempts, which is the last in the league. So it's tough, man. I have a lot of I just feel like people are overweighting the Bengals counting stats last week and not putting into the context of, that's probably something that's not going to happen every week. And it's tough. It's a tough matchup. AJ Green's air yards. He's got another awful matchup again this week. And Darius Slay. He's played Casey Hayward and Denzel Ward the first 2 weeks. Darius Slay has been awesome to start the year in both of his first 2 games. Terry McLaurin had 5 for 61. Robert Woods had 2 catches last week. He had a rushing touchdown. We know Burrow's going to jam him with targets, but
here's my problem with Burrow jamming with targets. And this, I don't mean to be on, team watch the tape or whatever, but Daigle, did you watch those AJ Green targets?
Oh my
because
God!
It's amazing that AJ Green was able to walk after that.
His hips hit his ankles because he has no knees when he jumps up. It's atrocious. Having said that, we're going to argue the numbers crowd though will argue against #team watch the tape because AJ Green outside of that has the numbers for positive regression. And by the way, this doesn't mean I'm going back to him. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here really quick.
He's cheap.
I mean, he's cheap. That's a good start. He leads the entire league in air yards and end zone targets and is tied for the 5th most raw targets. So the opportunity is there. And like Rich was saying, Burrow's going to jam target. Burrow does not care about who is covering you. He's shown that the first 2 weeks with AJ Green. He is going to just keep on jamming targets there.
I mean, I don't mean to go all Will Fuller here, but I'm genuinely worried he might die during the game.
Who's going to make air yards on catchable targets? Is that the next evolution for this, though? Because you cited AJ Green's catchable target rate.
Yeah.
Why should we care about all the air yards and the uncatchable targets?
This is very true. I think it was, 4 of 10? Is that the rate? Like I already said, it's the lowest rate among wide receivers with 11 plus target is his catchable targets because Burrow is clearly, as the air yards tell you, selling it over to Green's heads, selling it over a nursing home player's head who cannot jump up 6 inches off the ground. So that is what's going on with the Bengals offense here. That's why I like still the Philly offense, and Miles Sanders, as you said, Crain, is going to be one of the highest rostered, if not the highest rostered running back on the entire slate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just here. I want to talk about a running back on the other side here because Joe Mixon's somebody that before the season, a lot of us said, hey, we watched the end of the 2019 season. We know that this is going to be the year they're going to start feeding him more, especially in the passing game. Joe Mixon, once again, early in the season, has done nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing here. I was thrilled to trade him away from my season-long team yesterday, and 5.9K here. Not a great matchup, but is this guy going to break out eventually?
I think so. When you got Mixon, you got a curious case. He's got 20 touches in each game, which you do like. And if you look at the context of who he's faced, and we're still building the sample up on this season and finding out where these matchups actually lie, the two defenses he has faced have been good against the run in both of their games. Outside of, I mean, you look at the Chargers have stopped now Mixon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire last week and shut him down. And the Browns have been good both weeks against run. They shut down the Ravens running game in week 1 and then last week. So, I mean, we can say at least he has, faced two teams that have been consistently good in the small sample of 2 games that we had. But the Eagles' run defense is good as well. They did give up a chunk play to Darrell Henderson that kind of skewed like the yards per carry last week, but they still are 12th in yards per carry allowed to running backs through 2 weeks even with that. The problem with Mixon is he's used in the same capacity he's always been used in. He has 52% of the team touches while tied or ahead, and he's got 24% of the team touches while they're trailing. He needs to play in the 2-minute drill. He needs to play in catch-up mode, and we haven't gotten those snaps. And we've got him as a road dog that's a 6-point underdog. So we have to anticipate game script not being there again for him. So we're kind of in the same boat. He did catch 4 passes last week, which was more than he caught in any game last year. So you either need him to fall in the end zone, or you just need him to run into a hot matchup where the game script doesn't go awry. So yeah, we keep hoping. I've got Mixon in spots too, but like that's what it is. They don't have a lot of these spots on their schedule. They look, and you go up and down their schedule, you're like, well, they're going to be trailing here, they're going to be trailing here, they're going to be trailing here. Now they
have no line.
But the same thing was the case last year where he got hot. You just hope that the volume turns into something. I mean, listen. We got dudes picking up Jerick McKinnon and Mike Davis and Dion Lewis and Devontae Freeman this week. You've got a running back that's getting 20 touches. Sure, he's been bad on him, but at least he's getting the ball. And not a lot of guys have those 2 guys on their teams.
Well, here, let's go from a spot there where what running backs are going to be touching the ball to the Detroit Lions and the Arizona Cardinals. 55-point total. Arizona 5.5-point favorites at home. And look, this is another game. We don't see many 55-point totals in the NFL, and yet we have 2 of them here discussing them on the Pick Six. You got Kyler Murray, who had the okay game last week. DeAndre Hopkins, who everybody who said don't draft DeAndre Hopkins, they're not feeling great right about now. But, Daigle, when you look at this spot, it's tough. Again, you just want exposure. Like, that's what we want right here. We want Hopkins. We want Christian Kirk, who's way too cheap. We want a little bit of Kenyon Drake. On the other side, we want some Galladay, assuming he plays. We want Marvin Jones. We don't want any of these Detroit running backs. But, like, Daigle, where are you going in this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Cardinals. Just the fact that they're averaging over 80 plays per game, I mean, you have to have a piece of it. I know everyone will say Kyler Murray, and he will probably be the highest owned cash quarterback this week. But for tournaments, I actually like Kenyon Drake a whole lot here, who I played in week 1. I know he didn't get there. He fell in for 1 touchdown against the 49ers. Didn't get there again last week. But the Lions are just basically what the Panthers should be. The Panthers are atrocious, don't get me wrong, but the Lions are basically the Panthers of 2020 against running backs this year. Have allowed the most rushing yards, the most yards per attempt to running backs, and then a league high 7.2 yards per attempt to running backs through the air as well. So it's just a position that they can't stop at all. And Kenyon Drake is still a workhorse in this offense, despite what the production has shown us so far. He's outcarried Chase Edmonds 36-9 on the season, and his backfield touch rate actually jumped up in week 2. So 67% in week 1 to 79% in week 2. So I really like, we pretty much know the Cardinals should be leading here. So in what should be a positive game script for them, I actually love rostering Drake, perhaps in cash games, but all over in tournaments.
Yeah, I'm fine with Kenyon Drake. I'm also fine, of course, with these receivers. And Reeves, I know we've been talking about the, air yards and whatnot. Here's Christian Kirk at 4.5K though. Like,
nope.
No. Wait. Oh wow, just a hard pass on Christian Kirk.
He's hurt too now, right? He's hurt, so it's okay. He's gonna save us from himself.
All right. So who's? I didn't know he was hurt. Are we playing Andy Isabella then?
He got a couple targets last week.
Yeah, let's do it. Golly. Oh, my best ball shares from the last year are still crying. But I mean. You just want piece of this game. Which pieces do you want?
This is a good one, especially if it's going to kind of maybe just get overshadowed by Dallas Seattle, the popular game. If you got another game that can get over, because what this game too, this point total is telling me is that completely no one is buying the start the Arizona defense has had, facing a wide receiverless 49ers team that had George Kittle get hurt in mid-game and a Washington football team, quarterbacked by Dwayne Haskins. No one's buying this 2-game start that they've had. And then, you get Kenny Galladay back and what he can now unlock for this offense, with Stafford actually moving the ball downfield. You look at just throws 20 yards or further downfield. Stafford just at 10.2% of his pass attempts at 20 yards or further downfield. Last year with Galladay was at 19.2%, so almost cut in half. So even just Galladay having his presence on the field, although I think he'd be tough to go to coming off of injury, just make Stafford a better play though. And you can run Stafford back on a cross stack. The interesting thing with Kyler Murray is that he's doing it all with his legs. And going back to last year, he's still, having a problem with, passing efficiency from a fantasy stance. He's 30th in passing points per attempt so far this year, really getting it done in the legs. Only Cam Newton has generated a higher percentage of his fantasy points on the ground than Kyler has. He's got those 3 rushing touchdowns. And you're going to get some rushing touchdown production from anyways, but there's a chance for like him not to have as high as a natural ceiling without rushing touchdowns than people think if he continues to pass this way. The good news is Detroit is awful against the pass. They happen to be 29th in passing points allowed per attempt. So there's a chance for that to spike up. Outside of Hopkins, though, it's still the same story. I mean, who are we relying on, in that passing game? We're not playing Larry Fitzgerald. You said you could take a shot on Isabella. People like Dan Arnold coming this season, but that offense just doesn't cater itself to tight ends. And then Christian Kirk still doing the same Christian Kirk dance that he did last year. So it's really, you have to go in on Hopkins if you're playing, Kyler. That's the stack with him. But on the other side, you can play Drake, who has a great matchup, like Daigle said, and love him. And you can play him with Stafford. You can either try to play, Galladay or Marvin Jones or Hawkinson. The flow chart hasn't been there this year for Arizona.
Hey, I'm still following the flow chart, baby.
But, Hawkinson in 10 career games with Matthew Stafford, he has an end zone target in 7 of those career 10 games that they've played together. So he's worth chasing a touchdown on. The problem with Hawkinson is he's just not getting the usage we want. Only run a pass route on 59.6% of the Detroit dropbacks. Not the kind of levels we want, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are. It's a fun game. I think that, like I said, I think Detroit's going to play better. I think Stafford, if you have him in season long, is going to, this is a week if someone dropped him to get back on Stafford. If someone cut him this week, I would pick him up. I think he's going to have his best game of the season this weekend.
Lions passing game was there the first half against the Packers last week. Mm-hmm. I played them because I thought that game would shoot out. Then the second half, boy, it was just all Aaron Jones, and Stafford looked atrocious. Like Reeves said, we need Galladay back this game. But if Galladay is even available, man, I do like playing Stafford, running it back with Kenyon Drake or Hopkins. The issue is that, like with Kyler's arm, it's easy to produce with Hopkins. Hopkins' ADOT is 5.6. It's literally just running to the sticks and cutting back or cutting out. And that's his routes every single time. And you can't stop it because he's the best receiver in the league. Whereas his ADOT is 20 yards. And so his targets are completely volatile, hence the air yards. But now also he's injured and he gets so few. 9 targets to Hopkins, 25, that it's not worth chasing even one deep touchdown because that may be all you get. So.
It feels like these Detroit receivers are going to be the ones that are sort of lower owned than they should be. Galladay, Marvin Jones, TJ Hawkinson. In tournaments, I got to say, I think I'm going to have at least one of these guys in every team I build just because the upside against Arizona, of course, is there. And if you're playing Stafford, feel free to double stack. I have no problem with that. Reeves, are we gambling at all with these running backs? DeAndre Swift really seems like the only potential option, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
No, he's the guy that's getting used in the passing game, but he's got just 8 carries on the season, so it's really hard. There's just not really much of a ceiling there because he's not. We've already said he's not a cash game option. It's because there's no ceiling in tournaments. I don't think either. Really, it's just hard until we see the usage. It would be a blind dart. It would literally be open because he hasn't gotten the one goal line carry he got in week 1 was in the 2-minute drill. It was off of a no huddle. After Hawkinson got tackled at the 1, that he did get that carry, but we saw last week when they got down there and just the regular, pace of play, he didn't come back in for that carry. So it just was circumstance week 1 that he got that goal line carry. Just real hard to really just say that he's anything other than just a hope and a prayer.
That's also why I like this game, though, because it's pretty concerted target tree here. There are 5 or 6 guys we're looking at, which makes it really easy if we think the total is still potentially going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, on the Arizona side, you play Kyler, then you play Drake or Hopkins with a little Isabella sprinkled in on Detroit. You play Galladay, you play Jones, and I'm saying it. This is the week, ladies and gentlemen. The flow chart is gonna get back going. TJ,
this is the week Crain wins too, right here, week 3.
Wow, let's not get crazy now. Okay, let's just slow down a little bit. All right, before we jump into our favorite quarterbacks, I want to let you guys know that last week it's in the book, so it's time to review the tape and prepare for this week. And of course, that's what we're doing on the DFS Pick 6. There is no better place to get in on all the action than with DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy sports. To add to this week's excitement, DraftKings has a free shot. That's right, free at millions of dollars in total prizes up for grabs. If you haven't tried DraftKings yet, head to the App Store now. You do not want to miss this. You draft your lineup. You feel the sweat like never before. You see that currently winnings go from 5 to 10, and you feel, okay, I'm only losing $3,000 now. It's great. Just kidding. But it's simple. You pick your lineup, you stay under the salary cap, and you see how your team stacks up against the competition. Nothing adds to the excitement of watching games quite like having a shot at winning millions of dollars in prizes. And that's what you get with DraftKings, because they have paid out billions. That's right, with a B. Billions of dollars to winners since 2012, including your boy over here who won a Million Maker. So when they say anybody can do it, I'm proof, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, make sure you check that out. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code DFF. For a limited time, new users can get a free shot at millions of dollars in prizes this week. Don't miss out on the Week 3 action. Enter code DFF to get a free shot at millions of dollars in prizes with your deposit. That's code DFF only at DraftKings. Make it rain. And, of course, minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Let's talk some quarterbacks, ladies and gentlemen.
I need this energy every single segment. Like that energy right there, Crain.
No strong.
Nothing to read. Oh, man. Hey, it's 8:30, man. I'm old man now. The kids making it at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah, your boys, this is past my bedtime, buddy. All right, let's talk about Justin Herbert. Are we playing Justin Herbert at all against Carolina? Hey, look, he's at home. He's a quarterback against the Panthers. Daigle, you look shocked. Reeves almost laughed, and I'm sitting here saying,
No. I mean, it's on brand.
Yeah,
it's definitely on brand. But Daigle, I'll start off with you, man. I like Herbert a little bit. Who do you like?
I mean, Herbert's 5,900 on DraftKings. Like, why would we ever complain about that against the Panthers? He will carry more ownership this week after he helped win a lot of tournaments last week. But I feel like a lot more people are down on Josh Allen this week in particular, when I feel like the Rams defense is sort of overrated coming into week 3. Playing a Cowboys offense in week 1 that just looked lost, and I don't think we can attribute that to them. And then an Eagles offense, as we talked about, that has been lost in week 2. So I don't think the Rams defense has really been tested just yet. And just the fact that we know the Bills will continue playing more 10 personnel. We know they'll still be one of the faster paced offenses in the league, although they haven't ran that many plays through 2 weeks so far. I don't think they have an answer for Stephon Diggs and John Brown. So I still like Josh Allen in this game to match if we're rostering Russell Wilson or Dak Prescott.
What quarterbacks are you looking at? Hold on. This is, by the way, I think the longest we've gone. We're 32 minutes into this show, and you have not mentioned Mitch Trubisky. Is this when it happens?
It is a good match.
No. I'm not going to go to Mitch again this week. Mitch has been pretty – I mean, he's been so bad, man.
Yeah. I thought for sure. Honestly, when we talked about this show beforehand and the Bears-Falcons in Atlanta wasn't mentioned, I was stunned. Now you don't even like Trubisky. I don't even know who you are anymore.
Why do you think Allen Robinson demanded a trade? It's been terrible. It's been awful.
I think he's in play for some tournament action. The problem is I think we need the Falcons to do their part. And you look at the one consistent thing about the Bears, and granted, the schedule hasn't been there to press them, but they just don't give up a lot of passing production. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that game plays out and if it could really spike and force Mitch to kind of carry some water. But you can stack him with Allen Robinson. I think it's a good Allen Robinson bounce back week if you want to go that route. I think you can keep playing Cam Newton. Easily where he's priced, because the best thing about Cam is you can just play Cam. There's no force. You're not forced to do anything with Cam. He's a great cash game quarterback, because we know the floor is there while he's running. And then in tournaments, you can just play him if you want. It's completely fine where he's priced. But I think we talked about all the quarterbacks that are going to be in my kind of main slate allotment between that Dallas, Seattle game and then Stafford and, and then outside of Cam. I mean, I don't really think it's a week where you have to go cheap quarterback, where some weeks, because we don't have to fit in 3 9K running backs this week. We just don't have to do it. It's not there. This is a week where all the guys we want to play at running back outside of Zeke are all pretty fairly priced. And then we don't have like big receivers to pay for this week. DeAndre Hopkins is like the only main receiver that is even is remotely enticing that's up at the top of the board on the main slate to pay for. So I'm just going to play probably one of these quarterbacks as one of these really high ceilings and floors and one of these high total games, and not really, kind of press my luck like I typically would in a normal week where I'm trying to jam in all those running backs and need to pay for a sub 6K quarterback or a sub 8K quarterback on FanDuel. I just don't think it's a necessity this week.
Okay, so let's move on to some running backs then, because we already talked about Ezekiel Elliott, 8.3K over on DK against Seattle. He's somebody that's going to be in a ton of lineups. He's going to be in a ton of my lineups. So go ahead, blast away. But we're going to see a lot of cheap guys. Saquon Barkley, he's out. Is going to be Deion Lewis, Wayne Gallman getting some action there. I don't think it'll be Freeman quite yet. We don't know what's going to happen with these Rams running backs. Right now, Malcolm Brown is still banged up. Cam Akers is still banged up. Darrell Henderson just came off the big game last week. I don't know, Daigle. It seems like there are a lot of running backs, and I like narrowing my running back pool to like 5 or 6 dudes, and this is one of those weeks where I might have to expand that a little bit.
I don't know. Like, I feel you can safely pay up from the cheapies that we don't know their roles just yet and be just fine limiting your pool steal. Like, it sucks about Mike Davis because I would like to fade him in DFS at least. But we know he's going to play the pass catching role in that backfield. And we also know with a more explosive offense with Herbert and just their plan of attack with Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler, that the Panthers will also be playing from behind most likely. So, Davis could still get there on like 10 catches, no hyperbole. Having said that, I still like Joshua Kelly, 23 carries last week, which is insane. I think 25 touches without Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson, we have to wait and see on the injury reports for him, but we know that the Panthers' run defense can support on the opposite end, both Eckler and Kelly. Eckler in particular, because with Herbert under center, he actually targeted their running backs at a 21% rate, whereas Tyrod Taylor, only throwing deep, targeted running backs at a 3% rate. It's one game sample, but just to see the running backs more involved gives me hope for both of them. And then a deeper play, James Conner, he's played 5 quarters with Benny Snell this year, and he's out-carried Snell 22-5. He's seen 5 targets. Benny Snell hasn't seen a target yet when they've played together. And then Conner has also handled all 5 of the touches inside of the 10-yard line over Snell. So against the Texans defense, we talked about how bad the Lions rush defense is. The Texans are just worst in all those categories and rushing yards and yards per attempt. So I like James Conner as well. And that's just leveraging everyone's fear against them because everyone thinks he'll get injured. And maybe so, right? But if you're going to give me a guy who's going to get 25 touches when he doesn't get injured, it's probably a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, 6.7K, nobody's going to want to pay that price for James Conner. Like, he let too many people down. It's just it's not going to happen. And I see what you're saying. And, there's another guy who I don't think is going to be too popular. I'm just going to keep playing Jonathan Taylor every week. I
think he'll be pretty popular.
Really? Okay. Well, yeah,
I thought he would be one of the higher owned players. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we haven't updated our ownership projections yet, so I'm just going to like triple what we have because
I guess I can see it maybe on DK. His price definitely went up a little bit. FanDuel did not adjust because I look at Jonathan Taylor and he looks like Derrick Henry with pass catching, and if he's not going to be priced so egregiously away from Derrick Henry, then why would you not just keep going to him? He's a little tighter on DK, but on FanDuel, like Derrick Henry's 8.2 and Jonathan Taylor's 6.7. He had 28 touches last week in his first game. Played 67% of the snaps, and probably if that game was close, he probably would have got more touches. They kind of just used Jordan Wilkins to kind of like salt that game away towards the end. So I think he'll be pretty popular, especially on FanDuel. I think he'll be really popular. I love the Conner call. You get David DeCastro back this week too. Houston's one of those teams, small sample size, but they've been just crushed both weeks on the ground. 51% of the yards gained against them on offense have come via rushing. It's the highest rate in the NFL. And like you said, Conner is, people just are going to be hesitant to play him because they'll wait for like the old Julio factor. Like, this guy's going to limp off the field in the first quarter. They won't play him. And then, you know, obviously it hit last week. We brought up just the Panther stat. We might as well keep bringing it up until it finally happens. They allowed multiple rushing touchdowns again. It's the 7th game in a row, dating back to last year, that they've allowed multiple rushing touchdowns, which is the longest streak since the 99-2000 Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, they just might as well keep this going. Just assume that 2 Chargers rushing touchdowns are going to occur in this game.
Rich, I thought your Samaj P. Ryan rushing stat for the Saints was in danger on Monday night, but it held one more week.
Yeah, it looked in danger, as well as the Ravens wide receiver stat too, as well, because the Ravens haven't allowed a 100-yard receiver since they've acquired Marcus Peters, and Cooks had 95 yards.
Oh,
we didn't really touch too much on these San Francisco guys. Jerick McKinnon at 4.9, he's fine.
I don't think we can play any of those guys, man.
I'm not. I mean, I'd rather play Jeff Wilson. He's like $900 cheaper. I mean,
or him.
What?
I mean, it's hard for me to like, when I pay down at running back, like I want to still have like projectable touches. And it's kind of like we talked about with Antonio Gibson in week 1. It's fine when you want to take those cheap guys, but like if my guy can't get, like if I just can't like pencil him in for 15 plus touches, then it's like easy to fade those guys. And you look at last year, we have a very similar situation with Jerick McKinnon than we had in week 2 of last year when the 49ers went to play Cincinnati when Tevin Coleman got hurt in week 1, and everyone was screaming from the rooftops, it's Matt Breida week. It's Matt Breida week. We've got Matt Breida. And they went out and gave 13 touches to Matt Breida, 16 touches to Reem Mostert, and 10 touches to Jeffrey Wilson. It's not like far-fetched with, you got a guy that's missed 2 years of football and only has 3 carries in each game so far, that they're not just going to jam Jerick McKinnon up with like 18 touches. I mean, maybe it happens. I won't rule it out. It's non-zero, but I'm going to say that it's probably not very highly probable either.
Crain, do you think more people, yourself included, will go more cheap running backs like that? Or because we even have like Derrick Henry. Like Derrick Henry, I understand the touchdown dependency. That's what's hurting us right now. But he still handled 59 to 63 running back touches so far. Like,
I mean, I still play Derrick Henry. Like I usually have 1 or 2 cheap guys in my player pool though that I'm going to be looking for, because look, if one of these 4,500 dudes go for 20 points, you're going to need him.
Sure.
If that's unless all these expensive guys go for mid-30s, you're going to need them, and that value, especially what it can open up at the wide.
But they're
receiver.
not 4 though. That's the problem, is that there was none of these guys snuck up like this week. Like there wasn't a surprise and active.
Well, I'm the only one that likes Jeff Wilson.
I mean, how many touchdowns do you need from Jeff Wilson to get to 20 points?
He gets like 5 every 20 carries. So like, what else do you need, man?
No, I mean, he would be the one guy, I guess, like I would be like, you could push, I would like be okay, like you pushing back on. But you're talking about like Mike Davis is 5'1", like he's not 4.
Yeah, hey, big props to DK, by the way, for pricing these guys up, because it would have been a really, really dumb slate if all these guys were 3,500.
That's the other thing. That's what we're factoring in, is that they're not min priced.
Yeah.
And like Josh Kelly, I mean, he's going to carry ownership, I know, but he's only like 700, 800 more than those guys since they were priced up. And like, he's the one 20 touches, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I don't know. I'll have to think about it more as the week goes on.
Yeah, I would rather play Josh Kelly than Jerick McKinnon. I would rather play Josh Kelly than, I don't know, who's some of these other, like Darrell Henderson. Like, unless both Brown and Akers are out. I mean, even though it's a terrible matchup, I mean, the Bills' run D is good. Like, do I like it? No, but will I still pay 5-4 for – that's what I mean. There's a lot of really good plays. I think the McKinnon fade is really sharp, and it might screw us. If you're playing high stakes, he's going to be really, really popular there, because the high stakes guy is just good all over. Guys like Jerick McKinnon can catch the ball, under 5K. He's going to be super chalky there. If you want to fade him, go for it. But I mean, all these guys can't be popular. Miles Sanders is 6'4". I think that's why we're going to see the ownership on these cheaper guys a little bit less than maybe what I was thinking before the show, just because and
there's nowhere to put it. There's just nowhere to put the money this week. I mean, there's just nowhere to put the salary. Unless you're paying for DeAndre Hopkins. He's like the one guy I think will really go up.
I toyed with a FanDuel cash lineup earlier, just making placeholders. And I think I put Josh Kelly in over Derrick Henry, and I look up and the lineup is done and I had 6,400 left. I was like, oh, okay, that kind of week. I got it. I guess I have to keep on playing around.
Yeah, I mean, all the big receivers except for Hopkins are off the board because, I mean, you're probably not going to play Julio with a hamstring, and literally, like, Calvin Ridley's gotten priced up, and he scored multiple touchdowns 2 weeks in a row. We kind of know like we were like that. When's that shoe going to drop? This is probably a good spot. No one's caught 2 touchdowns in a row, 3 games in a row since 2015. Calvin Johnson, also Ted Ginn did it that year. But it's just hard to say. Like we're waiting on that regression. You got the price up to pay up for.
Are you doing like an interpretive dance over there?
No, every now and then when I'm recording, Silva would like deliver me stuff because we both have our hours. We're busy, and so this time it was a bottle of wine. So I was taking it over the.
Pop your head in, Silva back. Come on in, baby.
He's already downstairs.
Yeah,
I was doing a waiver stream the other day. And he came and delivered me a pizza out of nowhere, and then just left the room. So we have some unique like rapport here. We know what's going on here.
It's like a perfect strangers, Larry and Baki thing.
Yeah, it's too fun over here. Too fun.
There was one other running back situation I wanted to ask you guys about, and it is 100% selfish because, of course, that's with my season-long team. Is this Leonard Fournette's backfield now, Reeves?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bruce Arians has gone out of his way to find ways to hate Ronald Jones. Like he's just waited like patiently, all consistently throughout the 2 years he's been there for any little screw up Ronald Jones has had, and he's blown it up. He's magnified it to like the extreme. It's not like, dude, that play wasn't even. It's like not even 100% his fault. That fumble, like, it wasn't even like a clear Ronald Jones fumble. Last year, remember he missed a block in the first quarter, and Arians dragged him for missing a block. In like
that was one start too, yeah.
In the same game, like the like Peyton Barber gave up like a sack, and like
he's like Kerryon Johnson.
He just consistently looked for reasons to magnify any mistake that kid's made. Yeah, I think that's probably the takeover is probably in the works. He needs the routes. We need to get LaShawn McCoy out of these routes. McCoy had a terrible touchdown drop on one of the few good throws Brady made. I don't know how PFF graded Tom Brady as the second highest quarterback in week 2. This guy threw for 6.2 yards per attempt against the Carolina Panthers. He short-armed like a wide open flea flicker touchdown and somehow was the QB2 on PFF. And I love PFF and everything they do, but Tom Brady, how was he the number 2 quarterback last week? How?
I mean, maybe they're grading him on a curve. Like normally everything's 20 yards short. That one was just 10.
I don't think it's like lift off Fournette yet. Because Bruce Arians, the man.
Yeah, I would say it's still, yeah.
Bruce Arians speaks in the present. Like we all try to decipher what he says. He literally shoots from the hip. He's the most honest individual ever and says whatever he's thinking at the time. And he said, no, he still likes how the running back, he still likes his backfield. It is what it is. And he's going to keep it the same. But I will say Ronald Jones from week 1 to 2, touches went from 73% of running back touches to 29%. And then for Fournette, it was 23% to 51%. So we can expect that to continue in Fournette's favor. And he could very well still get there in this matchup. Denver's missing. I don't even want to go down the list. They're missing like 5 defenders. They have Jeff Driscoll now, who I like in week 4. We're going to talk about next week against the Jets. But if this week against the Bucs, it's going to be disastrous and a positive game script for the Bucs to just let loose with Fournette and with the ball on his belly. So I still think he'll get there, but I think we should expect more than we think for Ronald Jones.
I'm just glad that I have a full week to look forward to Jeff Driscoll.
That's week 4, buddy. Man. Horizontal tees.
Jeff Driscoll's played in 4 games since the start of last year, and he has 18 or more fantasy points in 3 of them.
Over 7 carries per game in his 3 starts for the Lions last year.
He's a hair on fire guy, Crain. This is the brand, man.
I like these guys.
You got 7 days, Crain. You got 7 days to think about it.
I got 7 days before I hate myself. All right. Let's talk some wide receivers. Of course, DeAndre Hopkins is ending up. He's the guy. If you're playing cash games, you probably have to play him because what the hell else are you going to do with the money? Daigle, who are some of the other wideouts that you like this week?
Fanduel and I are in a chicken fight here because they just want to keep decreasing DJ Moore's price. And I will just keep saying, buddies, I'm going to just keep playing him, I guess. He has 22 targets through 2 weeks. Like, I understand Robbie Anderson is more involved, but DJ Moore is still leading the team in target share. And they just lost Christian McCaffrey. Like, there are still more targets available now, and yet they dropped more salary, $100 on FanDuel. So whenever the Dirty Harry theme song, is that the – I may have dated myself there. Whenever
it's your birthday, so you're even older.
Whenever the theme song is playing, just know I'm going to just keep on locking in DJ Moore because he will score a touchdown on these targets too eventually.
I mean, DJ Moore, like, eventually he's going to get there. And
he's like the opposite of air yards, Crain. Like, you have to love DJ Moore because it's not air yards, it's targets. It's actual opportunity, it's targets.
There have been we've had 2 fantasy weeks now. He has been my highest owned wide receiver 2 weeks of this season. So, like, yeah, I'm going to keep loading up on DJ Moore, and if
you're committed now, baby.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned like the Panthers. I think a lot of people are going to overlook a lot of these Panthers because, again, is the matchup great? No, they have a 19-point implied team total. But as you said, Daigle, they lost Christian McCaffrey. I think we could see Curtis Samuel get some more looks underneath. Robbie Anderson, as you said, he's been getting more looks. I mean, Reeves, to me, there's a ton of usage to go around on the Carolina Panthers offense and not a lot of dudes to get it.
Yeah, because we know that they've dusted Ian Thomas. He's gone. Mm-hmm. He's off the reservoir. We can kick him off the island. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. Keep going to DJ Moore. We know the ball's going to go. There's going to be put in the air. Maybe there's a chance that just they get run on so badly here that they don't have like the play volume. But we even seen last week where he still got there. Still 8 for 120. No problem going back to him. Yeah, I don't have any pushback on that. I mean, I dig it. I think Allen Robinson's in play. You can keep playing Deontay Johnson until his price finally catches Juju Smith-Schuster because he's outplaying Juju Smith-Schuster and getting a lot more targets. I think both of the Denver guys are kind of interesting in tournament plays.
Jerry, once Driscoll came in, like he just targeted the hell out of Judy.
Driscoll, Crain, listen to yourself.
Yeah. Well, Judy is actually second in the NFL in target rate per route run. And I know that a lot of people cite the air yards and the overall targets that Hamler had, but Judy left part of that game too. He missed part of that game and then came back and still was only one target behind Hamler. They actually inversely, I think a lot of people thought when they drafted those two guys that Hamler would be their slot guy and Judy's their slot guy. Judy's there, and Judy played a lot in the slot in Alabama too, but Judy is their slot guy. So he's getting the cheap targets. So if you're thinking about taking a guy in DFS, obviously Hamler is going to have a ceiling and he gets those high variant targets, but Judy has a little bit of a better floor with the, types of usage he gets. He's still really cheap. He's going to get a lot of volume now with Cortland Sutton out. The targets haven't found Noah Fant yet. As good as he's played the first 2 weeks, and he's been great with all the targets he's gotten, but just the 5 and 6 targets total, we need him to get more. He's run hot in the touchdown department. Jonnu Smith's like that too. Jonnu Smith's had a really nice, strong touchdown spike, but the overall peripheral targets, we still would like a little more meat on the bone for when these guys don't score touchdowns. But I do like both Denver guys as tournament plays too.
I know the Jonnu Smith stats too, Reeves, but don't put that on Twitter because people get angry. People love Jonnu Smith, man. I love Jonnu Smith. He's a super athlete. Yeah, he's a super athlete, but I mean the opportunity, it's still not there. Like Jonnu Smith's the same player as last year. If AJ Brown ever comes back, then Jonnu Smith is an easy fade.
That's so funny.
Those guys are good. You just need the targets, man. But they also in touchdowns. You got to think about early in the season where everyone's taking these victory laps. Look at touchdowns, guys. Like the most highly variant thing that we have going in our game.
The hardest thing to project.
And when these guys start hot and touchdowns, of course they're going to look good. But the peripheral stats, and I love Fant. Every time he touches the ball, it's electric. The dude gives, but I want more targets. Maybe with Sutton being out, we get more. But I need more than 5 and 6 targets per week, man. I need more.
I also wish I knew more about T.Y. Hilton for receivers. But last week they literally just took him off the field. He played 56% of the snaps last week because they just let Michael Pittman run block for him. They just threw Pittman out there. They threw Pascal in the slot for Paris Campbell because Michael Pittman ran only 13% of his routes in college from the slot. And then they just put him on the outside and made him do the dirty work. And so that's what I fear in a heavy run game script against the Jets. That T.Y. Hilton won't get there because even if they audible from the run, he's just not even on the field at all now. So I'm concerned still about T.Y. Hilton. Otherwise, I would love to play him. I mean,
everybody, this is the third week now that we've talked about T.Y. Hilton. The Colts, when they're big favorites like this, they just don't pass.
Yeah.
This is a multiple year sample now that we have of this.
They did in week 1, that's the thing, but then also they came out afterwards midweek and said, we don't like doing that. We're going to go the other way now.
Yeah,
we lost that game.
I'll watch it for a Survivor contest. That's it. I'll be rooting for the Colts in my Survivor contest. But outside of that, and Jonathan Taylor, I ain't going to have any rooting interest in this game. But guys, I do have a rooting interest in you guys trying out RotoGrinders Core4 Premium subscription. Do it at a discount. And how do you get it at a discount? You go to rotogrinders.com/media/pick6. That's the number 6. Get your first month $5 off. Can't really beat that. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the like button, click the subscribe button. Now, Reeves, I got to tell you, man, we have been getting a lot of season-long questions in the chat as this show has gone on. And I told the people earlier, I said, wait till the end, and we're going to get to them. So this is us getting to them.
Well, this is a new
Thank you
wrinkle
for
here.
watching the DFS Pick 6. It's been a lot of fun. Daigle, Reeves, it's been a pleasure.
What a jerk.
We'll
What a
catch y'all
jerk.
later. Bye-bye.
What a jerk.